So I had my first verbal altercation with someone about my motorcycle yesterday. I pulled into a convenience store near my house, and there was a couple Harleys sitting there. And this sounds so, you know, it sounds like I'm generalizing this, and it's so stereotypical, it just seems fake. And I wish my GoPro was dead, because I usually cruise around places like Mooresville or Hickory, or, you know, maybe find some twisty roads around the lake or something. And I usually end up killing my GoPro batteries, plural, while I'm out riding. And, you know, either it's dead or, you know, my GoPro's off when I get close to my house, because I don't film anywhere near my house for the most part. So I pulled into a convenience store closer to my house. GoPro's off. Went inside, grabbed like a monster, I think. Come back out and was putting it in my book bag. This guy made it a point to say it loud enough for me to hear. Something about I wish these people didn't ride these goddamn dirt bikes on the road. And then, so I was just gonna let it go. I was like, oh, he's just showing off in front of his friends. Like, that's no problem, whatever. I was getting on bike, and then he said something that was actually directed toward me. He said, hey, you know you're not supposed to be, he said, you know you're not legally allowed to be riding that dirt bike on the road. And, you know, before I could say anything, you know, he's turned to his friends and said something about mopeds and causing traffic jams and not paying insurance. He said all of that within like 20 seconds. Just complete rambling, utter nonsense. I don't know what he thought I was riding. And so I got off my bike, took my helmet off, and I wear a book bag and a full face helmet, so I think the guy thought I was some like 16, 17-year-old kid. And, you know, when my helmet comes off, it's obvious that I'm not a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid. I got a full beard, and I easily look 30 years old. And I think that threw him off, because he thought he was just going to be mouthing off at some teenager who was just going to get on his bike and leave. So I just took my helmet off, and I went over there and sit on the bench next to the guy. And so I said, first thing I said to him, I said, well, one, it's not a dirt bike, it's fully road legal. I said, I pay taxes on it, it's got a title, it's tagged, it's inspected, it's insured. I said, I pay the same thing, I have to do the same things for my bike that you have to do for your car. And he said, well, it's illegal to ride dirt bikes. And I said, this isn't classified as a dirt bike, it's a street bike that looks like a dirt bike. And he kept on and on and on. And I said, look, man, I said, I don't know what you have a problem with this bike just because it looks different than yours. Because it's pretty obvious from the conversation I was having with him, he rides Harleys. And, I mean, it just went downhill from there. I mean, obviously he was pissy. He was even more pissy that I was talking back to him. And I wasn't being really, really rude. I was just kind of being firm, and he didn't like it. Because it's not as easy to show off to your friends when you got someone sitting beside you, rebuking everything that you say. So he was getting pissy. And these guys were older guys. They were you know, 40s, 50s, that type thing. And his friends were backing him up a little bit. And at one point I said, yeah, it's got everything your bike has. And he goes, no, it doesn't. And I was like, okay, what's that? And he said, it doesn't have the ride. Is that some sort of Harley term? I'm just unaware of. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. But I was like, okay. It was only 250 cc's. And then, you know, I told him what I did with the bike and how 250 cc's did perfectly fine. And I told them it would top out at 85. And they were like, well, I could ride my Harley at 90 all day long. And I was like, well, that's good for you, but I commute to work, and I don't ride 90 miles an hour to work every day. And I guess they just didn't expect me to be so logical or something, because they were having a hard time. I think they were getting pretty annoyed at me. And then they talked about how, well, you couldn't take this bike on trips. It's not made for riding long distances. And then they called it petty. That's good to put around the back roads with, but you can't do anything else with it. Oh, God. A waste of 5 minutes, guys. It was my first little argument with someone about the motorcycle, and it was so stupid. I've never, like, I haven't rode street motorcycles. I don't understand the whole hatred for other types of bikes or other styles of bikes and things. It makes no sense to me. Like, if I would have found a good deal on a Harley or something, I would have probably went for it. Or, you know, or if I'd have found a good deal on an R6 or something, I'd have probably went for that too. I don't really care that much, you know. There's a reason I got this bike, but, you know, if my reasons were different, if my needs were a little different, I would have got any bike. I understand the hatred for different styles of bikes. Like, if you ride a sports bike, good for you. Good for you. And if you ride a cruiser of some sort or a Harley, well, good for you. I could care less. And I guess the guys at that store, you know, they had probably been riding for a long time, and you know, they just had some kind of mentality where, you know, their bikes were the only way to go, and Harley Davidsons are the only way to go. And if you like Harleys, more power to you, but you don't have to kind of force that shit on other people. I got nothing against the Harley at all. I don't know, I guess I'm just too friendly of a person. Like, I would never be sitting out in front of a store, or I don't ever sit, maybe when I'm an old geezer like those people, I'll be sitting out in front of a store one day, and if you show up on anything but a Honda or a supermoto, I'm gonna give you shit about it. But I seriously doubt it. I spent my whole drive home thinking about those idiots yesterday, and that didn't really get to me until I got home and started thinking about how petty it was. You ain't gotta, like, get rude with me, because, you know, I'm not a confrontational kind of guy, but, you know, I have no reason not to. I probably should just get on my bike and leave sometimes when stuff like that happens, but that's just not me. So I don't know, the whole thing was silly. Yeah, I don't know, it's a waste of my time to even talk about it, but that happened. All the really cool people that I've met, you know, riding around already, and then run into a group of guys who've been riding for years and years and years, who act like a bunch of dicks just because the guy's riding a different kind of bike. I don't know. I know they're not all like that, and I know there's probably people, there's people that ride other kind of bikes that act like asses too, but no, I don't know, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.